Hello, hello, everyone and MediaTek family. I am Christy White. Happy New Year. For those that don't know me, I am all things marketing at MediaTek Ventures. And I'm very excited to have you join us today for our fourth installment of Code is Not a Prerequisite. We will be joined today by Satish Kamsali, our strategic partner in software design and technology. He's with our Imaginnovate. I'll bring him on in a minute, but as I mentioned, I'm particularly excited for today's chat because it's all about MVPs. And for a couple of my friends that don't necessarily know, or those that might not know what an MVP is, it's not most valuable player in this instance. It is minimum viable product. So we talk about how code is not a prerequisite, but running a tech startup, you have to know some of these things. You need to learn the basics and the lingo. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about why it's important to choose the right features for your MVP, what is an MVP, and the best practices that can help you refine your scope for it, and then the key metrics that you want to capture for your MVP. So I'm going to bring in, without further ado, our partner, Satish. Welcome, Satish. Happy New Year.
Hey, Christy. Happy New Year to you too, and to all the viewers.
Yes, I'm very excited for you to join us. Like I said, one of this conversation I've been waiting for. Like it's where I live in building things with startups. So I am super pumped about everything you're going to show us today, particularly because I'm a data nerd, the key metrics that we need to measure for MVP, because a lot of people will build it and then they'll completely forget about tracking it. So very exciting. Um, Tell us a little bit about what's been going on in your world. Like what's been up for Imaginnovate?
Oh, it's been a very exciting year for us, 2021. Despite all the struggles that we had made a fairly good amount of progress. We have engaged with a couple of startups in the last 1 year, and it's been going really good. And we did see a couple of engagement getting extended towards end of this year as well, which is really great. And
Yay!
yeah, I think it's
Very
going to be
exciting.
great going forward.
Very exciting. Well, I think 2022 is going to be pretty exciting. If anything, it's not going to be boring. That's for sure. Hopefully, it will be more people getting online and learning how to build the things and the ideas that are in their head that you'll
Mhm.
be able to help and bring to life. So, without further ado, I will exit. I will give you the floor. Please tell us all about MVPs.
Sure, definitely. Okay. So, welcome everyone again. Okay. So just before getting started with the topic, I'll just give you a brief introduction about myself. My name is Satish Kamsali, and I do work with Imaginnovate as a team manager. We are a team of 20 plus developers who are working on the startup development. Apart from that, we do have other business units as well. Okay. And coming to today's session, it's the fourth session that we are doing in our webinar series, which is Code is Not a Prerequisite to Run a Tech Startup as a Non-Tech Founder. Okay, so without further ado, I'll just get started with the topic. I'll share my screen. Okay, here we go. So in today's webinar session, we're going to look at build your MVP the right way. So we are going to look at a couple of basics that are related to the MVP version of your product, and then we'll look into the practices that are required to refine that and pick the best features that are possible for your MVP version. Okay. So in today's topic, we are going to cover three main aspects. The first one is why it's important to choose the right features for the MVP. The second one is best practices that can help you refine your MVP scope, and the third one is key metrics to capture for your MVP version of your product. Okay, coming to the first topic today is why is it important to choose the right features for the MVP. Before doing a deep dive into the topic, let's take back step and understand what an MVP is. An MVP for your startup is going to be a minimum viable product where you define which are the core features that are really required for the user to understand your product, experience your product, and also accept your product and promote that in their circle. Okay, so Apart from MVP, you do have a full version of your product, which can be a fully specified product. Okay, the minimum viable product is where you define what are the core functionalities that are required to go live at the earliest, and fully specified product is the entire roadmap that you would like to foresee as a complete product. And the difference will be in the minimum viable product, you can just go ahead with a couple of features that are really required. And for the fully specified product, this is where you get all the features that are already in the domain, and also that are unique to your platform as well. Now, the minimum viable product typically takes around 3 to 4 months for the development, whereas a fully specified product might take more than a year to complete the entire designs and development. Okay. Now, in this, there are a couple of aspects that I want to compare. Is for the for MVP, you can test the assumptions ideas at the earliest. Okay, and it takes less effort, and also you'll be testing the idea with a smaller group, so that way you don't kind of put your assumptions ideas directly in front of a huge crowd or the market. The second point is shorter time to market. As I said, MVP is going to take somewhere around 3 to 4 months for you to develop and launch the product for a smaller audience reach. So this takes a very less time, and this is where you can make a decision or validate your idea whether it's working or not in the market. And coming to the same aspect for a fully specified product, it's going to take more than a year. And if that doesn't work out, if your product has a couple of changes that needs an overhaul or rework for the entire product, it's going to take a lot more time. And by this time, you'll be spending a lot of effort. And the third point is an MVP requires less of effort, time, and cost. So for fully specified work, as I said, it's going to take more time and more development effort and also marketing effort. And the cost to acquire a customer is going to be more. But for the MVP version, it's going to be less effort to build. The time is going to be around 3 to 4 months, and the cost is going to be within the budget, and it's not going to be uh, like something around that's going to shoot up the roof. And the last point is quicker access to early adopters. For the MVP version, since you're going to work with the core features, it's going to take less time. And this will allow you to work with your early adopters, share the access to the features directly, and get their feedback at the earliest. And build a robust feedback channel that will help you refine the product based on the feedback given by the early adopters. Uh, so, just to give you an example, MVP version always takes less time and allows you to test your idea at the earliest without even waiting for the entire product to be built. Now, moving on to the next part of this is why is it why is the MVP is important in a startup journey. So MVP version is kind of a key stage that holds the success of your product. This is where you would like to test your ideas and also put a less effort into the development and go with a minimum cost. And then from there, refine and iterate things, move into multiple phases, create a uh, product fit, and then move into the exit. So the next point is always have a stable working solutions that stakeholders can experience and feel confident about. So most of the times, whenever you reach an MVP version, that's where you have a stable set of changes that your early adopters and other stakeholders can feel about. So they can create accounts, they can look at your solutions, and they can get back to you if they feel there's anything that's not really sticking with the market or has to be changed as per the latest trends. Then that's something they always can experience. So once the solution is out, you can start doing a development on a second environment, and the first environment that's going live, where stakeholders are using that for experience. You can push on the minimal minor updates whenever there's a possibility. The third point is agility. So since you are going to build your initial version at the earliest, what it's going to do is it's going to allow the uh, team to take a time after the MVP version and get back to the metrics, see what are the metrics saying about the user trends and how the business is going, and based on that you can make decisions. Okay, and these decisions can be deciding the functionality or the features of the application, and also might be giving a different geographical location advantages to you as well. And the next one is scale as opportunities grow. So since you're starting with a minimalistic designs or the features list, you always have an option to be flexible and change the direction. With a fully specified project, you cannot do that because you're spending almost an year uh, with your assumptions that the market is going to accept your product, and also that's going to work for sure. With an MVP version, since that's a shorter duration of time, and once you get the feedback from the actual or real-time users, you're going to update the direction of the opportunities. First, suppose most of the startups they get started with an eye on the retail customers or end customers, B2C customers. But again, as MVP version completes, and if you see any opportunities between a B2B, business to business opportunities, I think that opens a whole new window where you can get a lot of user base at the same time. It's an opportunity that can extend along with your product development. And the very last point is iterate and refine. Since the initial version goes live in the first 3 months, you always have an option to iterate the product as much as you can and refine it to the best possible ways. Either you can start working on new features based on the trends, or you can start refining the user enhancements, user experience that will keep the users engaged and make sure that your product works real well. So with this, we'll move to the next version. Before moving to the next section, let's look at some of the MVP versions of the famous applications that we have seen. So the first one is YouTube. As you can see, the very first version of YouTube was a minimalistic design where they had access to a couple of sections like home, videos, channels, friends, and upload. And they had one single section that says today's featured videos, where it used to display the videos based on the ratings that's been given by the users and when it was uploaded, depending upon different sortings. On the right you just have an option to sign up or do other functionalities, and also look at the different tags of the videos that are there. Okay. And the second example for the day is Twitter, where you can see the Twitter has gone ahead live with their MVP version that simply is minimalistic in design, simple, and yet achieves the agenda or the core feature functionality they wanted to display. So all the user gets to see when they sign in is on the right hand side they have an option to enter what they are doing, and on the left they can see what others are doing, the friends are doing, and they also had an option to SMS their status. So these are several other examples as well. These are just two examples that I gave, but these fall into the right category where they went ahead live with a minimalistic design, tested it enough, and started improving and enhancing the product based on the user feedback, but not on the assumptions that take very long for them to develop and go directly to the end user. Okay. So with this, we'll go to the next section, which is best practices that can help you refine your MVP scope. So now that's defined, like your MVP is going to be a short version of your entire product option, but it's going to include all the required features for the product to work. Let's look at what an MVP should include before we go ahead and see the practices which will allow you to select the best possible features that suits your product. So the first one is unique selling point. For your minimum viable product of a startup, it's always important to establish what's your unique selling point is. How do you differentiate from the customers, and uh, if you're solving any problem which makes you stand about from the competitors, or you're implementing something new, I think that should be considered. And the consistent user experience is required. uh, this is because users expect the software to behave in certain aspects, such as iOS application is expected to have a certain features as a consistency, and Android applications are supposed to have back home and then Google button as a default experience. And Windows and Mac OS do have different operating experience. So it's important that the user experience that you are creating in the product stays consistent with different platforms that end user is using. So that way they see a consistency and they familiarize themselves with your product. Next point is customized as per target user personas. So this is where you would like to consider different characteristics of different persons who are going to use your product, and start aligning their expectations and see if your product is going to address all those different user personas, and the minimal expectation is being reached there. The next point is ease of using the product. Any product that you launch should be as easy to use, just as shown in our previous example. YouTube and Twitter did not go ahead with the complex designs, and in their earlier stages, they have given time for the users to use the product as a minimalistic design. Then, as the user base grew, they started evolving into a different product based on the user feedback. So it's always important to make sure that ease of use of the product is always considered. And the next point is adopt user-centered development, which means that always consider user feedback as center for your development. Any features or any enhancements or any feedback from the user is going to be very crucial for the success of your startup. So go ahead and take all the feedback that you can get from the users, analyze all the metrics that you are capturing, and based on that, start making changes to your product development lifecycle. Okay. So these are a few of the aspects that you need to consider while you're trying to work on the set of MVP features that you would like to include for your product. Okay. Next is we are going to look at one of the prioritization practice, which is called Moscow. So this is where you have list of all your features listed in one of the unsorted bucket, and then you drag and drop each one of those features into one of these quadrants. Now, these quadrants are actually driven from Moscow. M stands for must have, S stands for should have, C stands for could have, and W stands for won't have or will not have. Okay, so you start moving your features list from unsorted to each one of these quadrants. Okay, must have is a quadrant where you would like to place the features which are non-negotiable, such as unique selling point, or which are standard for the domain to be provided, and which are basic expectations as per user personas. And without this, the product is not viable. So all these features should be considered for the MVP version. And the next quadrant is should have. This is one step lower than must have, and these are features which are important but not vital. They're not going to break the functionality of your MVP version. They're going missing these will not have any functionality breaks. It's just fine, but these are some of the features which which most of the competitors might be providing, but at this point these may not define your product success. And there might be a couple of other workarounds as well to kind of bypass these features. So you'll be considering should haves only when you have room in your MVP version in terms of effort, cost, and time. And the next quadrants is could have. These are kind of enhancements or the features which end user will be delighted with, but these do not define the success of your product. At the same time, they require extra time and budget. So if you can stretch your MVP version, time, budget, and effort, then you can include these features. But again, even without these, you can go ahead and launch your MVP version. And the last quadrant is won't have. These are a list of features basically, uh, which take a lot of time to build, a lot of cost to build, and also these might be nice to have features, but may not have a real impact in terms of user acceptance. Okay, so these are the four quadrants. Again, all you need to do is create a list of unsorted features list that you would like to build your fully specified product and start moving features into one of these quadrants until you have must have and should have, could have, and won't have. And once you're done with the practice, uh, first set of features that you would like to consider will be must have. And if you have any room in your MVP version timeline, effort, and cost, you'll have to consider should have, and then nice to have features which may not even have an impact on the user acceptance. Okay, won't have can be something down the line after the MVP timeline, where you can queue those changes based on the feedback that you're getting from the customers. Like, are they really going to add value to your business? And if so, at what stage would you like to implement that? Okay, so this is one of the practice which will really help you to understand from a business perspective which features are really required to be developed for your MVP to be a success. Now, the next practice is value versus complexity quadrant. So, and this on the y-axis, you do have a business value, and x-axis, you do have an implementation complexity. Just like the previous, you'll have to pick all your features list from must have and should have, and use that as a bucket, the complete bucket. And from there, you need to drag and drop each one of those features into respective quadrants. Okay. So in this, as I said, on the y-axis, you do have business value that goes from low to high, and on the x-axis, you do have implementation complexity that goes from low to high. So in the first quadrant, place the features from must have and should have in the previous practice, which provide high value and are low complexity to implement. So these are going to be easy wins, and this is definitely should be part of the MVP version. And the next quadrant is high value and high complexity. So this is where you need to make sure that you are taking a strategic initiatives which are really required for the product to be accepted as an MVP by the end users and by different target personas. And based on that, you need to place the initiatives here. And the next one is low value and low complexity. So these might be set of features which might require less effort to build, at the same time provide less value in terms of business. So put all those cards here, and the last quadrant is low value and high complexity. So these can be features that require less effort to develop, and then takes uh, a lot of sorry they provide less value, but again high complexity in terms of effort to develop. Okay. So just to give you an overview like how it's going to look. So I've just created a project where you can see like all the unsorted are here, and this is a Moscow practice, the first practice that I spoke about. So you need to drag your features from one to the other quadrant, and then you decide which are the must haves, should have, could have, and will not have. So that's first practice. Sorry. And the second practice is value versus complexity, where you pull in all the features that are from must have and should have, which have business values. And then you start taking the inputs from the dev team as well, and then consider whether the effort and the business value does match. Okay, so you may consider one of the feature as high value and high effort, and the other one as higher value and low effort. So start matching the features to the quadrants, and you'll end up with the list of MVP features which are going to work for you in the best way. And so with this, these are two practices which will help you kind of define what your core MVP features can be. But again, before moving to the next section, let me just give you a heads up. Like for these practices to happen, the beneficial way, it's always important to understand that all the decision makers should be part of this practice, and all the dev team or anyone who's going to be uh, putting an effort in the MVP version development should not be biased in any of the features. And the third one is you should have done the market research by this time and understand who are your direct and indirect competitors. So that will help you make a better decision, and also make the best use of the practices that we have just discussed. Okay. Moving on to the next topic today is key metrics to capture. As you're trying to build an MVP version or a product for your startup, so it's important to back your product by the statistics that kind of reflect the success of the product and the journey that users have taken from your product. So for you to do that, it's really important that you showcase some of the metrics that you capture over the period of time. And right from the MVP version, all these statics are really important to capture, so that we can say like how you say that your product is working and in the market and it's in demand. So the first one is download and open rate. This can be in terms of mobile applications. You'll have to look at how many downloads have been done and how many open rates are there. And this can also be in terms of visits for the website. And the next one is time spent on the app. Look at how long a user is spending a time on your application. And the next one is top features or screens most visited by the users. So this is going to define the direction of your product development as well, so that you get to know which are the top most used features and which are the top most used visited screens. So that way you can put more of your efforts in terms of user experience enhancement and other ways. Okay. And the next one is user access locations. It's really important to capture the geographic locations if you're planning to serve in multiple locations to see where the product is doing really well and where it's not. This might be a case where you need to focus more on user personas. If a product is doing much better in one of the area and it's not doing in the other area, then there might be some difference between the expectations of geographic locations, or they might be expecting a localization. So all these information you can get from the user access locations. And the next one is registrations. Look at how people are registering over a period of time, how the trend is going there, and if there's any down degradation of the numbers in between the registrations, just go ahead and spend some more effort in terms of marketing and try to raise it. And the next one is churn rate. See how many people are using, how many users you are losing over a period of time, and use that to retain the users. And the next one is active users. Look at the active users that are using the platform and try to grow that user base over a period of time, right from the MVP version to the phase one, phase two versions and product market fit. Okay. And the next point is user ratings and feedbacks. So this is where you would like to capture the user ratings and feedbacks from the users. That can be app user ratings or feedback written in the website by the users. Use those to take a strategic decisions that will help you identify the exact features or functionalities that needs to be changed as per the user expectations. And the next one is customer acquisition cost, is actually how much of the effort in terms of marketing or other means that you're putting forward to acquire one single customer. And capture this over a period of time, and you'll see that it's going to go down gradually as your product increases more number of users. It's going to create a brand awareness, and people will start using the platform gradually more than you spending more of the marketing efforts. Then next one and the final one is enhancement and features request. As I said, along with the feedback, go ahead and start having conversations with the B2B and B2C customers. See what kind of enhancements they would like to see in your platform, and any feature requests that will be really helpful. Okay, any idea is going to make your product must create. So feel free to go ahead and have a conversation with your customers and consider them for the next round of changes that you would like to do for your product. Okay, so with this, our today's topic for choosing the right features for the MVP version is complete. Okay, and moving on, so I'll be giving a glimpse about what we do at Imagegenerate and some more information about our company. So we have been working as Imagegenerate. We have been working with startups for more than a decade right now, and we have experience of working with more than 50 startups. And startups have generated more than 10 million in cumulative revenue, and there are 10 high growth startups growing over 100% year on year in terms of user base and also revenue. And there are six startups who have raised at least a minimum of $1 million in funding. So some of our startup clients are Blended Sense, Angel Eye, You Earned It, Bidops, Unitag, Calypso, AutoThink, and Believe Nutrition, and many more. We have started initially from Texas, and right now we are spreading across different regions in the US, and we also have a few of the clients in Middle East as well. And since we have worked with more than 50 startups, we have gained a lot of knowledge, and we have reached a point where we have observed that we have spent most of our effort in six verticals working with all these 50 plus startups. These verticals are media tech, med tech, ed tech, e-commerce, lifestyle, and mobility tech. And in terms of technology, we have a vast tech stack that's including both web front end, back end, mobile application development, DevOps, and other aspects of the technology as well. And so just to give you a glimpse, like what kind of engagement do we have with the startups? We do a tech analysis of your product. This is going to be a non-commercial one where we take a quick glimpse at your existing technology stack, if you have any, or the product that you have, and then get back to you with a quick analysis report saying this is where you need to focus. These are the areas that needs improvement, such as code standards or any standard practices that needs to be done, or bug tracking, things like that. And the next one is discovery sessions. Um, Here we are going to work with the startups to define the entire roadmap that's going to include a technology strategy, development roadmap, and implementation plan for them. And in terms of development engagement, we work with the startups in developing prototypes, creating the minimum viable products, and project based engagements with them can be a fixed one or a time and material based. And just in case if you're working with a third party vendor or you have an internal team, we also augment the development team as well. So we work with your internal team or your vendor. And the last one is technology consulting, where we review the status of the track of the startup that you have, and we do a consulting based on that, providing some of the strategic decisions whether you want to implement these XYZ features or not, or how the user is going to accept that. Okay, and that's all about it. Okay, so with this, our session today is done. Okay, and
Hello,
giving back
hello.
to Chris.
Hi, that was wonderful. I particularly like the grids that you've laid out so that we can visually see the prioritization outline.
Hmm.
That's important. I love visuals too, so that's me personally. But then the complexity quadrant.
Hmm.
particularly like I even took a screenshot of that because the business value versus the implementation complexity is important to measure, and I don't think many people really look at it in the way that you've lined it out. So really appreciate that. Thank you. So we are open for questions. If anybody has them, please go ahead and leave a comment. I I want to take us back to one of your early slides where you showed the first iteration of YouTube and the first
Hmm.
iteration of Twitter,
Great.
because most people don't actually see those and they don't think about what they're used to seeing every single day as having a first version of itself. Like
Hmm.
you see in design how logos evolve over time and they
Yeah.
make slight tweaks here and stuff, but you don't think about the overall bigger picture of something you use every day. So I frequently complain every time Facebook decides to change something, but it's just them testing out new things and trying
Hmm.
out what a core group of their audience has to has expressed that they'd really like.
Hmm.
So real quick, we you talked in the very beginning about product versus fully specified product, testing
Hmm.
the assumptions and the ideas. How do you start with which ideas and assumptions you should test or not? Is that something that is your own thought, or have you already done that kind of market research that's telling you to lead with these few features first?
Got it. As I said, like for MVP to include, you need to consider a couple of them. Like you need to put in your own unique selling point, okay, so that you differentiate between the existing competitors, or you're trying to build in your own solution. At the same time, if you do your market research, there are a couple of practices that are really required. Say in terms of terminology, in terms of user experience, there are certain standards that are already being set. So it's important to consider those. And on top of that, if you can have your unique selling point, I think that's the basic version of your MVP. Okay. So most of the people, what they do is they kind of club everything together. Like, okay, these are the basic features
Mhm.
that any web application should have. These are the basic features, and these are the best features that the competitors are having, who have been working for more than a decade. So they try to work with that. Then they have nitty gritty stuff which their friends and family like. Then there are a couple of stuff which their stakeholders like. So they kind of overwhelm with all these features lists, but they lose track of the actual focus, that is their unique selling point. Okay. So
Okay.
if you can bring in your unique selling point and do some of the basic features listing, I think that should be a good start.
At least it'd be something that you could put out there and measure and see
Yeah.
where people are
Yeah.
responding back to. So you mentioned that competitor view of what your competitors are already doing.
Hmm.
I find that some people get paralyzed by looking at their competitors too much and thinking that they need all of these features that their competitors have.
Yeah.
I've done it before, like, well, they have this and they have that, and they think that they have to take a big chunk out of it initially, and that could be to their detriment.
Hmm.
How do you weigh like what your competitors are doing against, what you should be doing? Again, that's that happy mixture of a little bit of everything,
Hmm.
but getting over that competitor paralysis, I guess you could say, is I'm not good enough or this is going to be too small to even get started. But that's the whole point of an MVP, is
Exactly.
to test and to see what happens and to see what responses come back. So we actually have a comment.
Mhm.
Stephen Bob, MBA, can we get a copy of the presentation and slides? Absolutely,
Yeah.
Stephen. That's a really great question. At mediatech.ventures, you can get a copy of the slides. They will be added to Satish's
Perfect.
profile, and you'll be able to download them then. And if you have any questions for Satish, you can actually message him and ask him. So part of our MVP and is our community, is the MediaTek Ventures community. You mentioned as well, kind of just going through a few things, a few of the startups that you've worked with. One of them actually being one of our alumni from our incubators. I want to talk a little bit about. I've actually got to go in and see what you've created for them and how they're bringing creatives together. So give a quick shout out to Blended Sense and all of the awesome things that they are doing. But I love that you're able to Like I saw them in infancy when they were pitching and getting
Mm-hmm.
their startup together, and now I actually get to see what it is, their idea that wasn't so easy to understand at first, but then you see it all pieced together and it's like, "Oh, okay. I get it now." Like it's really fun to birth a business in a way, to birth the idea and bring it to life. So I just wanted to notate that I thought that was really cool.
Got it. So the credit goes to the co-founders. They have done a really great job. Okay.
Mhm.
And right now they are crushing it. It's been like it's our third year of engagement, and we have been doing really great. And there's so many features that we have implemented within Blended Sense, which are complex and also required. But the best thing that we have done is our MVP version did work, and that's very
Yay!
important. Yeah.
Yes, because they've been able to move on towards funding, and that is
Exactly.
the whole point here, is that the MVP is meant to give you that stepping stone to being able to build the bigger and better thing. That's why
Mhm.
it's so important. Oh, we have another question from YouTube from Coding Guy. Awesome. What if I got an idea for a problem, but
Mhm.
someone built the solution already? Should I proceed making my app with some improvements or start thinking of something else?
If it's worth giving a shot, I think you need to do a market research first. Okay. As I said, there will be direct and indirect competitors to you. Okay. Even if you find a different problem to solve, there will be definitely a person who might have found the solution. It's just that are they doing the right thing? Is there anything better you can offer to the end users? So try talk to the end users, get a glance of their user personas. Uh, I definitely feel though the users are using that as a solution for now, but if you can offer much better with a better user experience, I think it's going to be great.
I have a response to that as well, just
Mm.
from my own like experience and perspective. So, no one will do what you do the way that you do it.
Yeah.
And most of the time, it's not necessarily just the product that sells you, it's the person that's selling it.
Mm.
So, what you mentioned, Satish, is that Blended Sense, their founders were very
Mm.
into it, very integrated, very building. It's the same thing, like as a marketer, I've been told, well, this person does the same thing. Well, nobody does it the way that I do it. It's working with you, it's your different way of taking that problem and fixing the solution that makes it independent. And that was to your point throughout the whole presentation, is remember what makes you
Yeah.
your why, what makes you different from everyone else, what's the factor that's different from your competitor that
Exactly.
you're solving. So
Mm.
that's just something to add in there, is that make improvements where you can, but let that market research kind of guide you in it, and your user experience to help kind of drive it forward.
Exactly. And from a top view, it might look at like it's the same solution that you're offering, but let me assure you, it's going to be different. The more deep dive you do into the market, learning more about the users and learning more about the product that you're talking about, there will be definitely the differences that you can mark and they can stand out and make your product go live.
Exactly. So that's why doing that research is important. You just can't skip on over it. So
Yeah.
I want to go back a little to the in our last few minutes, the metrics to capture for an MVP. So I mentioned in the beginning that most people are like, I have an idea and I
Yeah.
want to build it, and then they're like, okay, now what? So getting that MVP out there and getting it in front of people is part of what I do. So it's getting your test users in place, sending it out to not just your family and friends, but the people that you have never talked to before, the people within your friends circles, like sending it out and getting that feedback, but being able to measure your overall metrics to capture. So I just want to go through those again. You mentioned download and open rate,
Mhm.
time spent on app, top features, screens most visited by users. So by that you're meaning the what they're interacting with the most,
Exactly.
and then they what pages, or necessarily where they are within the
Mm.
process that they're excited about. User access locations. So can you give me a little bit of insight into that? What do you mean by user access locations? Where they're signing in and accessing it, or what?
Yes, exactly. Where they are
Okay.
signing and accessing it. So this gives you an insight into which region of users are using your application most, and that will allow you to kind of create a persona, saying like people in Texas do like these kind of applications, and the culture kind of leans towards using these kind of applications, whereas people in Arizona may not like these things. Okay, there might be a, say for suppose if you're trying to offer the same product in US and Middle East, and Middle East might actually want to do a localization. They want to read something in Arabic. Okay, so looking at how people are accessing will allow you to understand why it's not working in one region while it's working in the other.
So how do you account for that when it's regional based in that area? Because, for example,
Mhm.
Facebook doesn't like there's going to be certain features that people use East Coast and not West Coast or South America versus India. How does a company align for regional? Is that something that comes later on down the line? Are you
Yeah.
needing to focus on one region first?
No, at this point, we're just talking about capturing the metrics.
Mhm.
Okay. How we make use of that data down the line is going to be different.
Okay. That's good to know. Because again, that you're looking at everything and you're like, oh, well, I have to build all of this at once.
Hmm.
So taking a step back with the data and building kind of that timeline and execution of what features should be where is important. So it's almost as much tech as it is like operations in terms of what you're doing and when you're doing it and how the data is allowing you to drive it. That is amazing. I want to thank you. Coding Guy says elbow cough. Thank you very much. Again, if anybody else has any questions, please send them in. We are very excited that we will be able to do one more episode with Imaginnovate to be able to pick their brain. So next Thursday, the 20th of January, I believe we are doing this at 12 p.m. I'm going to double check that time, but we have it up on the MediaTek.Ventures website under events. So you'll be able to check it there. But we're going to be going over product market fit. So, Satish, can you tell me a little bit about what we can expect from next week's presentation?
Since we have covered like what an MVP version is, we're going to go beyond that, and we'll start from a zero and from where you have an inception of an idea, and how you can go to a product market fit where it's a fully specified product. It can compete with the competitors, and also the users are willing to promote your product just because they like it.
Okay. Awesome. I'm very excited about that. I know that you can expect from MediaTek, we have an amazing article coming out from our CEO, Paul O'Brien, all about MVPs. And we'll be sending out our newsletter weekly on Thursdays. So be sure to subscribe if you want the inside track on, and also access to Satish's slides are on MediaTek.Ventures. Thank you again, Satish, for joining us. You and Imaginnovate. It's amazing. Again, I'm like my head spinning with all the different knowledge and things. I know we have some members of the team that would love to talk to you about some mentorship with some of our startups that are trying to get themselves started. And like the best thing that we can do with our knowledge is share it and give it to others. And so that's a real big pillar here with us at MediaTek, is to make sure that we can support those startups that need it. So thank you so much for taking your time to present to our audience. I really appreciate it. And until next time, everyone, thank you. And again, Happy New Year.
Bye, everyone. Have a great day.